YouTube, it's Stes. Finally, the run is done. It only took me a year, but at least I got it done. And of course, I do have to address the elephant in the room, Legendary 7. Legendary did a video very similar to mine, but if you look close enough, you will notice one thing missing, criticals. Now you might be asking, does this change the run? Nah, it changes everything. Technically, this run starts on the 18th, so you can avoid triggering weaknesses. But since this is my video, we will be going through the game from the beginning. We start with the Moloch. As long as you use curse only, the fight goes without a hitch. When Kasumi appears, I just guard and the game forces crits to have an all-out attack. I set the game to merciless since we don't get any benefits playing on there. You know, that's almost the reason I started the run last year. And with that, we are now in Yongen Jaya. After about 10 minutes of fast forwarding, we now awaken to Arsene. This leads to another curse-only battle to secure the victory without losing a run. And we run into that goddamn cat Morgana! And Morgana shows how annoying he's gonna be by hitting the weakness of Jack-o'-lantern all on his own. I was thinking of resetting at first, but after pondering on it, there's no point, since that is always scripted to happen. That is because Morgana has AI controls right now. I can't tell Morgana to do something else. I just have to deal with whatever Atlas gives me. So Morgana and I struggle with some pixies. We finally leave Kamoshida's palace. The next day, we come back. After an ambush, Morgana hits the weakness of a jack-o'-lantern. And that is going to be the first reset of the run. I know it sounds like an identical situation that we just talked about, but the difference is that fight was mandatory to progress, but this fight that we're doing right now isn't. So I retry it and actually get ambushed, which led to the second reset. On my third attempt, I finally got past him and found my first save room. Later on, I fight an Eligor, accompanied with 2 bicorns. The fight is very tough because if Joker gets hit by 2 bicorns, he is dead. These bicorn are also quite tanky, with the party only being able to take one out with each turn. This wouldn't be a problem if I didn't have a Eligor and the extra bicorn to deal with. Eligor himself packs a punch that can wipe out Joker if I'm not careful. On the winning attempt, I get saved by luck. If Eligor would have struck me instead of Morgana, I would have been screwed. Thankfully, he didn't, and I easily beat him after this. After the story happens, we go to Kamoshida's palace again. In it, we are forced to use gun to hit the weakness of a pixie. Then I use that same pixie to abuse the weakness of a bicorn. A couple of minutes after this, I'm on the second boss, Belphegor. Normally, he isn't difficult, but on my first attempt, he hit Joker with a Garu, didn't even know he could use Garu, which killed him. Usually, Belphegor starts with a Garu, and then does physical attacks to the rest of the party. Not sure where he pulled Garu from, but I guess even though Persona 5 Royal is brutally easy, it's still an SMT game at heart. For Belphegor, we want everybody to be at 90 and above HP, just in case he pulls out Garu again, which did about 87 damage. I ended up defeating him without him using it, so I guess that doesn't matter too much. Now it's April 18th, and that is when the run officially begins. I can start by talking about social links. I won't mention any of them unless I get a skill or persona that I plan on using. I didn't really have a plan for social links in this run, since there was one guy that I was worried about, but I didn't know how to prep for him. He will be the hurdle that either lets this run be done, or it to be dead. Also, before we continue, earlier I forgot to mention the optional challenge rules. These are here to make the run more interesting. I plan to not use the gym, DLC, Jazz Club, and to also have a level cap. Now, I can break these rules at any time, and the run will still be good, but I'm going to try to make these rules work for the video. On the 20th, I decided to hop in the palace, which is a good place to talk about random encounters. To be honest, nobody clicked on this video to watch me do random encounters, but what I will say is that they are very tedious. I'm hoping that I get the fights done as quickly as possible, because if I don't, then it makes it easy for me to face a reset. Criticals are really my greatest enemy here, because weaknesses and tentacles are very easy to avoid. These fights also take forever since I can't get any good damage from these rules. This is the last time I'll mention random fights in a lot of detail since they all follow these rules. The first boss, Archangel, is identical to a normal playthrough. Dump ammo on him, use physical after. Racunda also speeds up the process, which is what I ended up doing. And of course, guard when he charges. A couple minutes of this process leads to an easy win. I went for the will seeds for all this palace for the run. I'm saying that so I don't have to repeat it for each palace, which led me to the second boss, a pile of slime, or whatever this thing is called. Ideally, you want to use physical since he is neutral to it, but this reminded me why Legendary cut this out of his run in the first place. Critical hits. With these, physical becomes unreliable unless the enemy cannot suffer a critical attack, then it's open season on the enemy. I decided to do the same strat, thinking it was bad luck. And yeah, it was. I just ran it back with physical and won the fight. The explanation about crits is still valid. The reason I didn't switch is because the slime resists everything except physical, so it would have taken too long to try to set that up. The third boss I fought was Eligor. Again, minus the crits, this fight is not bad at all. You only need to throw up a Tarunda because Eligor's attacks does a lot of damage without it. The fourth boss is Eligor again, but this time it's more difficult since I do not have enough SP to set up a Tarunda, which leads to my party getting wiped. Thanks to a lucky dodge, I was able to survive and win the fight as the last member standing. I tried fighting a strong Shadow Bear later, but I ended up hitting a crit, so I just stopped trying to fight him since it would be very difficult to win without a physical attack, because at this point it was the end of the palace and after all the fights I did, I ended up with low SP. I ended up finding the treasure and sending the calling card, which I don't have the footage. I don't know why, I don't know where it went, my bad. Soon after, I fought Kamoshida. Most of the fight is the same as a normal playthrough. Beat down on Kamoshida, get the order to destroy the cup, then Mishima comes on the field and you need a guard. Shiho now also comes on the field and the first hurdle of the run comes in. I need to do 300 damage to Kamoshida to get past this phase. I was unable to do it and took my first L against Kamoshida. So after doing the same process as before for my next attempt, but this time making sure to drop Kamoshida's attack and defense before destroying the cup, I make it back to where Shiho appears. This unfortunately does not result in pushing Kamoshida out of this phase, but I survived the turn thanks to those debuffs and I'm able to do enough damage to continue the fight. I was surprised that I did not have to do 300 damage in one turn, but I'll take it. From this point forward, this plays the same as a casual playthrough. The team decides to take the crown off of Kamoshida, so I send Morgana to do it. Now you just need to attack Kamoshida regularly and barely heal to progress enough to take off the crown. Once the crown is off, the fight is over, since Kamoshida's defense drops drastically, and that's one palace ruler down. I sell any items I had at the airsoft shop, and a little while after, I meet Maruki. I need to do his social link for the third semester, so that's a priority for the run. I see Yusuke and decide to buy equipment that will help me out in future palaces. I also get insta-kill, which is, as usual, the best skill in the run. Now I'm in Madarami's palace. The random encounters here pack a punch, with An almost dying from a single attack. Not only am I getting critical hits, I'm also using a lot of SP for the beginning of Madarami's palace. I used half of my SP in just this part alone. When trying to free the party from the laser trap, I fight a Shiza and die from it. This was not the start I imagined when taking on this palace. After freeing Morgana, we fight a treasure demon and do not decide to take the fight seriously because my SP is low, and if I fail to defeat it, my SP would be even lower, resulting in me having to reset and having to do this whole part over again. So it's a lose-lose situation no matter what I do. That grandpa demon in Madarami's is an actual threat, being able to kill a party member in a couple of hits if I'm not careful. After some time, I end up fighting the boss Nue. Now, only Ryuji is in my party because of the plot, so I only have Ryuji in this fight. Nue hits like a bulldozer getting thrown at your skull, with Skullcracker as the main source of damage. I tried throwing a physical aimment, to negate any physical damage Nue could do to me, but he used the Maea out of nowhere, so I lost my first attempt. Next time, I used it to Runda to limit Nue's destruction. He's still a threat, but the fight is actually possible now. I almost won, but a critical hit ended the fight for me. In further attempts, I keep hitting critical hits with Joker and Ryuji. On the 6th attempt, I decide to stop using physical attacks, since it is clear it won't get me anywhere. Nue hits Ryuji with the critical, triggering his Endure. After Ryuji died, I was unable to survive his attacks and lost the attempt. I retried again and the same thing happened. After Ryuji dies, it's just impossible to survive Nue's attacks. Now I need to come up with a new strategy. I fuse the Succubus, which blocks Curse, and I plan to use this to block my ass from Nue. I go after Nue again, and fusing Succubus helped out a lot. There is not a guaranteed way to know when Nue will use Maea, but after he would use a Skullcracker, I would switch to Succubus, since there's a good chance he would use Maea after. This strat worked, and I beat Nue shortly after. Wow, this was a very rough fight from a boss I did not think would actually be a problem. Yusuke awakens to his persona, and I have to fight an Ippon Datara with Kappa Tengu supporting it. The Kappa Tengus like to use taunt, so when Ippon attacks, he is pretty much guaranteed to kill whoever he targets. And Yusuke hits a critical. On the 2nd attempt, Yusuke got another critical on Ippon. For my 3rd try, I decided to not use physical attacks again. My party got hit with a taunt, and Ippon knocked them out. So I needed to take out the Kappa Tengus to stop Ippon from getting free KOs. After about 10 minutes, the Kappas are dead, and now I just have a normal boss with Ippon left. I played very safe, with me dropping its attack and throwing a physical ointment on Ryuji because his health was low and I didn't want him to get knocked out because I didn't have any revival beads. After beating down on him, Ippon goes down without much of a fight. The next day, I come back to the palace and fight Kurama Tengu. We're just surrounded by more Kappa Tengus. I guess in this fight it's more fitting that Kappa Tengus are here compared to next to Ippon. Kurama Tengu is a tough opponent. He uses Magarula, which rocks my party every time he uses it. I use sleep to put him in check so he can stop using that attack. While he is asleep, I plan on dealing with the Kappa Tengus to make this fight easier. When the Kappas are gone, Kurama will summon more, which reveals this fight to actually be a DPS check. I have to defeat Kurama before defeating all of the Kappas, because he'll just keep summoning until he dies or I die. Later on in the fight, Kappa Tengu Tarukajas Kurama, and he annihilates Joker, which gave me my first L. On the next attempt, I aim to kill Kurama first, just to make my life easier. Unfortunately, the same thing happens as last time, Joker dies once again. So now, I go back to a safe room and bring Morgana in, instead of On. As much as I hate Morgana, he works better for this fight, because he has better healing and will also resist Magarulas unlike On, making him a better fit for this fight. Morgana also has Ponipa, so keeping Kurama stuck is actually easier, since he'll try to use Magarula, but won't be able to because of Forget. With this, the run was going well until Yusuke gets another critical. This run is honestly just way too brutal, so it's no wonder I quit this a while ago. So the same thing happens for the next attempt. I was getting frustrated, but I just had to keep trying. This run took a while, but that is because I used normal attacks instead of going for physical skills, because it looks like normal attacks have a lower critical chance than using physical skills. Using melee was more reliable.
Hold it!
Stesh, what do you mean that doesn't count? Alright, let me explain. So, this video is probably going to be titled, Can you beat Persona 5 Royal without using weaknesses, tentacles, and criticals? Now, lock in on the word that says use. There was no point in this clip where Joker did a critical where I had any player control. This would be like banning or stopping the run because in the tutorials you're forced to use weaknesses and things like that. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to do that because of one time where, oh, Joker was taunted. You seen it. There was no way. I couldn't stop it. I couldn't do anything to it. So if I'm forced to do it like that, I'm not counting that as a violation of the run. So the run is going to continue. Using melee was more reliable. And combining this with Ponipa, every time Kurama did not have a status ailment, finally gave me the W. This fight makes Ippon look soft, somehow, even though that fight took forever too. I have to fight a group of Makamis, and they were not difficult. I just needed to make sure we are healed up, attack, and win. A much more interesting fight was Aura Habaki, the last Will Sea Protector. He is extremely dangerous and is always avoided and runs with a permadeath rule set, because you will lose somebody if you do this fight in a challenge run. Aura Habaki's moveset is getting brainwashed on the party and using Mopsio to wipe the party out. There is no way I could survive that combo. Technical damage is way too high. I need to keep him from being able to do this, and I do so by inflicting Freeze, Ponipa, or a similar status ailment. I could also heal up on Brainwash so I could try to tank the Mopsios, but that is really a last case scenario type thing. That's not something I want to rely on. Also, he will use a Flash Bomb, which not only does physical damage, but has the chance to inflict Dizzy, which just extends the fight more because now I can hit attacks, now I gotta deal with that, and the Brainwash. So really, we want to hope that he misses that attack. Later on in the fight, Aura Habaki hits Joker with the Brainwash. I had to do a lot of thinking because I did not have any heals for Brainwash. And that's when I saw it. Magic Ointment. Aura Habaki tried to kill Joker, but his attack got reflected right to him, resulting in his death. This is definitely a huge highlight of the run. I never would have thought using the Magic Ointment, so at least I know this run is showing a new side of the game that you've probably never seen before. I haven't talked about random encounters in a while, but now that I'm done with all the mini bosses, I could say they suck. These fights are so difficult and unreliable that I had to go to earlier parts of the palace, and even here, they still suck, because now I can't get good XP, and I'm still wasting SP. But all hope is not lost. There is one option left. Fight Shiki Uji, the Savage Shadow. This is the best option for many reasons. First of all, he is only one enemy, which means SP will be used more efficiently compared to random mobs. He also drops good SP, his moves are predictable, and he drops Sooty armor, which will become the best armor that you can get for the point of the game once you wash it in the laundry machine. So really, with all of these reasons, there isn't a good reason to not fight Shiki. Even though I got ambushed by Shiki, the fight is nothing compared to what I was suffering through before. Shiki can suffer from ailments, so he can be maintained just like Aura Habaki was earlier. Shiki is mainly a damage sponge who is dangerous sometimes when he uses double shot. There's not much to him besides using taunt and following up with a double shot, which makes him an actual threat. I had to do another fight right after Shiki because of how high my security level was, but as you can see, the XP is very high for this early of the game. So I actually decided to farm Shiki because he is extremely reliable, and honestly the only way I'll be able to get to level 18 so I can get Shiki. During this time, I fuse a Nekomata that has Mazio and an Orobus with Marakunda. I ran low on SP, and since I had Phantom Thieves request, I decided to hop in Mementos the day after, since I was a level short of 18. In Mementos, I found many treasure demons, but for all of them, I ended up getting a critical hit, so I couldn't defeat any of them. I finally reached level 18 and got Shiki Uji. The reason I wanted Shiki is because his affinities are out of control. He blocks physical, gun, curse, and bless. Atlas has interesting ways to make sure every difficulty turns into easy difficulty in modern Persona games. I don't know why they do it. I've always said, like, at this point, there's no reason for the difficulty option. But before I send the calling card, I washed the dirty armor and made spotlights for Madarame's boss. On the day I'm supposed to fight Madarame, I actually fight a treasure demon and beat it, so that is proof that I have gotten more powerful. Fighting Madarame for the first time was a nightmare. He starts off with a wind and annihilates Ryuji. It's impossible to bring him back because Madarame keeps striking him down. Using physical attacks to hit all the paintings make this first phase doable. Soon after, I can punch him out of the first phase. The second phase is worse because now Madarame summons clones that target the weaknesses of my party and we go down in no time. On the second attempt, it goes much smoother. Before I go to the second phase, I throw an item that increases the defense for everybody. I also make sure to wait so Ryuji can get the paint that Madarame placed on him off, because I don't want to go into the next phase and for him to be vulnerable to all elements. In that phase, I tried to strike all of the clones plus Madarame, but that did not work. I lost from a weakness hit by a Madarame clone. I rethought my tactics and decided to refuse Shiki with the Marukunda and make sure he also carries over Rakukaja. Getting to the second phase of Madarame was simple. This time, I decided to throw a spotlight on Joker. I'm aiming to have the party target the real Madarame while the clones target me. For this to work, I need to have my defense up, and I need to make sure Joker has enough health to tank. It is a bit of work for a setup, but this is what I came up with on my first attempt at this challenge. As the fight kept going on, the effects of my spotlight faded and I forgot to renew it. This was a horrible move, with Yusuke and Ryuji getting dropped because of it. I was able to recover, but Joker got hit with the paint. He died soon after that.
So I don't know if I sound better, let me know in the comments section. Since I died, I decided to get Dekaja on Shiki, since the clones sometimes like to use Tarakaja. Whenever I have a free turn with Joker, I use Shiki to Dekaja so I can survive the clone's attacks. I ran the fight back and got to the second phase where Madarame used the paint again and took out Joker identically to the last attempt. Instead of retooling my party, I went for it again, hoping that Madarame misses the paint on Joker this time. Fortunately, after 10 minutes of fighting, he does miss, but soon after, he tries to do it again. He hits it, but I just push with Joker in the party and Madarame falls. What a fight. This run is really good. I have a lot of free time until the next palace. During this, I aim to work at the flower shop on Wednesdays and Saturdays so I can get the most amount of kindness in a session. On the same day I worked at the flower shop, I visited the Velvet Twins and it gave me the skills Maragi and Mabufu. The same strategy I use to work at the flower shop, I do for the convenience store, since I want to use my time effectively. Sometime later, I visited the twins again and got the counter skill card. It's time for Kanashiro's Palace. You first go against two Onis. All I need to do is inflict them with an ailment and beat them down while they're stuck. Kanashiro summons more Onis, and I do the same thing as I did before, and they're dead soon after. Kodo awakens to her persona, and I need to fight more Onis, but this time with the sweet key in the middle. He does a medium ice damaging attack to the entire party, which does a lot of damage. I need to stop him, or I'll be stuck healing while the Onis get hits in. Shiki finishes him off, but an Oni does a tentacle on the frozen Makoto, and she dies from that. Bring her back, and the fight ends smoothly. On a later date, I infiltrate Kanashiro's palace. My first fight is with a group of Orobuses. Orobusai? Whatever, you get the point. They hit very hard and kill my team. I just end up using Suzaku. He drains fire, making him kryptonite for the Orobuses. After a couple of turns with Rush, I win the fight. I went to the Velvet Room and made an Ame no Uzume and added a bunch of status buffs and debuffs to her. The party fights Fuiki, which is easy, but we get a crit, so I beat him again without getting a crit. I fight Fuiki again, which takes a bit of time, but is not too difficult. An interesting fight appears, and that is the one with the Kinki, Suiki, and the Fuiki. The only one that really sticks out is Kinki. Because of that, my main goal is to keep him from attacking the entire fight. My plan breaks apart once Fuiki goes for Ryuji. He gets his Endure triggered, and I'm already on the defensive. It doesn't take too long for me to get overrun and lose the fight. I go ahead and fuse a Yaxini so I can get a taunt to use. On my follow-up attempt, I use Wage War to inflict rage on the enemies. I had Yaxini use an Ice Break to give Yusuke away to do good ice damage to all the enemies. While Pinky is now in check, Sweet Key is still wreaking havoc. After using a Wage War, Sweet Key used a physical attack and got countered, which ended up killing him. This made the fight much easier, and I'm surprised Pinky was not much of a problem after all. Later in the palace, I went against the strong Shadow and got washed, rinsed, and put in the spin cycle. It's gonna be a rough fight for sure. Fighting Akum Honda was just a longer version of fighting Sweet Key. I fight the last Will Sea Protector, Cerberus. As you can probably guess, he has strong fire attacks, which put Yusuke and Morgana down. He is able to be inflicted with ailments, so I make sure he's inflicted with one, and I whittle down his health until Yusuke crits him. Of course, I have to cut out physical attacks again, which does not change much. I just keep his attack down and kill him a while after. Find the treasure, and I unlock Velvet Room alarms, which give me better results from a fusion compared to a normal fusion. I got a very good result from a fusion accident during this alarm. A Divine Grace skill card. I didn't farm for it, I just got it naturally. I love Persona. In another alarm, I make a Mitama with Mediarama. I plan to put Divine Grace on him once I copy the skill card, just to get a designated healing persona already. Also, I haven't talked about random encounters, and that is because from this point on, I plan to only fight the strong shadows. After farming the strong shadow until I reach level 26, I go ahead and fight Kaneshiro. This first phase is identical to a normal playthrough. Survive until Kaneshiro starts running on his pig. Ryuji will give you an option to throw an item, and no matter what, throw the item he tells you. He'll always give the right item to distract Kaneshiro, and you need to get Kaneshiro out of that attack pattern because it'll end your run. After a couple minutes of fighting, Kaneshiro will get out of his pig. Once he does, he will summon 2 bodyguards. Kaneshiro now has Lullaby, which can sleep your entire party. This will result in many tentacles, so I aim to avoid that. I can't though, with Morgana and Makoto falling because of this. My run ends because I hit a forget with Ryuji on the shield bodyguard and tried to hit Kaneshiro with a seal. Unfortunately, the guard protected him, which made me hit a tentacle, so my first attempt is an L. For my next attempt, the first phase goes the same as before. The second stage of the fight starts off bad, with nearly my whole party getting slept. Thankfully, none of them died, and that is thanks to the defense buff I gave them before triggering the second phase. A couple minutes later, I hit Kaneshiro with a shock, and that's what I've been hoping for since I hit the second phase. I think Kaneshiro is the only main boss in P5R that could be hit with a shock, so it's always good to abuse that when you face him. The bodyguard on the right is the main issue. He always runs in front of Kaneshiro. The only way to deal with him is by using a status ailment to keep him stuck in his area. The fight takes a while since there is no good way to deal damage in this fight. I get him low enough, which has him waste all of his money, and his bodyguards leave as a result. Kaneshiro gets washed without too much effort, besides needing a lot of patience. Before going into Futaba's palace, I bought Morgana some new armor. Morgana has the lowest defense out of the party, so I need to get his defense up by any means. In the clothing store, you can buy a clothing bag, which will give you armor that is stronger than the ones you can find in the previous palace. I never used this feature in my casual playthroughs, but it's one I plan to use for this run. I fuse an Isis, which carries over Mediarama, Recarm, and Divine Grace, making her a better healer than the Mitama I have. With this prep done, I finally head to Futaba's palace. Random encounters give me the usual crit luck. I fight the first boss, which is a Garuda. He can be inflicted with status ailments, so I try to keep him shocked for the whole fight. Garuda is mainly good with wind, so he repels any wind attacks I throw at him. He also likes to throw out Brainwash at the party. While annoying, it does not affect me much. Garuda throws out a Magarudan, which kills Ryuji. I bring him back with Isis, and kill Garuda with a CO. The next boss, Mai, is very irritating to fight. He likes to turn party members into rats, which I can't show because I make my confused, so he cannot use that skill. Instead of turning a party member into a rat, he summons Elamiya into the field. I'm not sure why, but I'm not complaining. I didn't get far into this attempt, until Yusuke got a critical, which forced me to quit the fight. Since I lost, I go back to the drawing board and fuse a Tamlin to hopefully get more physical damage, which should reduce my chances of hitting a critical, which only works for me, not for Yusuke, who goes and gets a critical on the first turn of the battle. Really, Yusuke, can you chill? You keep hitting crits. I swear you're the one guy who gets crits this consistently. So I try again and put Yusuke on a magic only path because I'm sick of him ruining my fights. Even this fails since I learned Lamia's Aritabufu when Yusuke hits her weakness. Man, this fight keeps getting worse as time goes on. On my fourth attempt, Mott turns the cat into a rat. I was able to hit shock on Mott, hoping to give Morgana a turn to come back to cat form. This worked perfectly as Morgana comes back on the next turn. Summons a Lamia as usual, but this time, I decide to hit it with a Ponipa so I can stay focused on Mott. I use Kinki to get Mott enraged. This will have him do only normal attacks and will have him take more damage than usual. The only downside is that he does more damage to whoever he targets. And when he's not suffering from rage, he goes and summons another Lamia. I decide to try to wage war again to make the fight easier, but only one Lamia is hit by it. Yusuke gets turned into a rat, which sucks since he is a good damage dealer. Ryuji hits a critical with headbutt, which concludes this fight. For my fifth attempt, I decide to take off Yusuke, since it is clear he was sucked for this fight. Bring in Makoto instead, and she got turned into a rat. Forgot to start the recording before the fight started, my bad. I'm able to shock him, and Mott for some reason tried turning Makoto, who was already a rat, into a rat again. I get Mott enraged, and he responds by killing Morgana. If it was different circumstances, I wouldn't care, but I kinda need Morgana right now. He also turns Ryuji into a rat, so this isn't going well, to be honest. After this, he starts his summoning routine. I brought Morgana back and was able to enrage Mott again, and also deals damage better than everybody else, showing that the fusion was useful in some way. Ryuji gets another crit. The critical part of the run is killing me, man. This is driving me insane. After this, I decide to get charged on Satanta to make Tamlin stronger. Everybody besides Joker is hitting crits, so running physical for mainly Joker just makes sense. On whatever attempt this is, I substitute On for Makoto, and Mott turns her into a rat. I get him stunned with Morgana, and Ryuji crits again. What is that, the third crit in a row? My goodness, I have to bend physical for mine at this rate. Next time, I sub Makoto for On again. I get Mott in an enraged state again, which leads to mostly pitiful damage for the party. When Mott's summons come in, I make sure to check them with a Makajama, so I can focus on Mott. I charge with Tanta to prep for Tamlin. When I use them, I got a critical. Frustrated doesn't even describe how I feel. This must be how Joker felt when he got thrown in all that acid. I really have no clue what attempt this is. 8? 9? I don't know. I brought On and Makoto in place of Ryuji and Yusuke. As usual, I keep them in check, and my party does solid damage thanks to time. It takes a long time and a lot of SP, but now Ma is dead, and I hit Lamia's weakness with Makoto. Can't even get mad at this point. What the hell am I gonna do? Just have to try again. This attempt, I do the same thing as before, enrage and keep the summon stunned with whatever ailment. It's simple to survive, it just takes forever to kill Mott. He is dead again, and Lamia goes down without hitting any weaknesses or crits. Yeah, this took about an hour to finally beat Mott. I'm exhausted just looking at the footage. Wow, this looks very familiar. That's right, I have to fight Mott again. This time, he spawns in with the Lamia and Naga to accompany him. Make sure to stun the grunts, to again focus on Mott. He throws on a Megiddo out of nowhere, and it does a lot of damage. Lamia got enraged, and she ended up attacking Joker and killing him with a critical hit. On my second attempt, Mott bodies me with a Megiddo. Because of how badly I'm getting beat, I decided to form the strong shadow Anubis. The fight was going on fine until Ryuji got a crit. My main strategy for Anubis was to enrage him. I do this to drop his attack and make it easier for my party to deal damage. This backfires quickly, with Anubis killing me after being inflicted with rage. I refuse Shiki again so I can have time, making it easier to afflict Mott with rage. I went to fight Mott again just to avoid farming. Using it to rune down Mott will allow the party to survive a Megiddo. Mott does another Megiddo and Morgana dies in the process. Soon after, I die from an enraged Naga. The next attempt, my party gets dogged out. Joker dies from Megiddo. I lost the fourth attempt because I wasn't able to see that Mott was afflicted with Forget, and I threw out a seal, which gave Mott a technical, using it to run. For my sixth try, there was not a lot to talk about. I just had to keep attacking Mott while trying to survive the summon attacks. About 10 minutes in the fight, Morgana gets turned into a rat, killed a couple turns later. Brought him back and killed off Lamia. I noticed after doing this that Mott will not summon a replacement as long as someone he brings is on the field. When Mott got lower on his health, he brought back Lamia. I killed off Naga because he is more irritating to deal with compared to Lamia. Mott summoned again and brought another Lamia out, which if he was gonna summon, is the best thing he could have done. It is very easy to keep her in check, so after doing that, I stay focused on Mott. Joker kills Mott with a Freyla. Now we have to get rid of the Lamias, which is simple to do. After a couple minutes, they are down. It feels good to push through the pain. That's all I can say. Now, I'm fighting the Will Sea Protector, Alilat. This rotating pyramid repels physical and gun attacks. I need to use only magic against this boss. Alilat hits like a 12 gauge shotgun. I also cannot use fire because Alilat is weak fire. This sucks because the best magic dealer on my team is On. She only uses fire. But I'm able to shock it, so that is a plus. Fortunately, Alilat is also a tank because the damage we do is much lower than I expected at this part of the palace. I lose off of a critical triple down on Joker. I try to farm Anubis again, but he is still unreliable like before. I end up using Joker only because Shiki blocks all of Anubis' attacks. The farm becomes reliable, and I do a fusion during an alarm, which gives me an Aramitama with high counter. I plan on using that to hopefully repel one of the gun attacks. Aura also has a good magic attack, so hopefully once I hit Alilat with taunt, I'll do good damage with it. My second attempt doesn't start well, with Morgana getting washed by a Bufudan. Hit Alilat with a taunt, which is always good for these kind of fights. Aura does great damage against Alilat with Freyla. The fight ends up with only me and Ryuji. Alilat takes out Ryuji, and now I have to hope for a dodge so I can win the fight. I end up losing that fight. For my third try, Morgana dies almost immediately again. I do the same strat with the taunt and Freyla combo with Aramitama. Later in the fight, I have Ryuji use Tarakaja on Joker. This helps me deal good damage on Alilat. Alilat comes with a triple down, and if I'm hit, the fight is over. Joker dodges, and Ryuji misses his attack, which leaves Joker to hit Freyla to win the fight. This is the hardest palace so far, without question. I'm still shocked at how these fights went. I'm the one that did them. Farmed Anubis for a while, and finally reached level 34, which is the level cap for the palace. After leaving Futaba's palace, I beat a game and get a code. When you beat games, they usually give you a code that will become an amp to boost your magic damage for a particular element. I plan to beat all games in Joker's room for accessories. Wakaba's boss is easy, just like a normal playthrough. Survive until Futaba shows up, play through Futaba since she'll repel Wakaba's attacks and set up a ballista to take her down, and use physical when she's down. Rinse and repeat until she's dead. Yeah, it was really that easy. Just takes 10 plus minutes because of all the story you have to fast forward through. Now with the next palace, that's going to be the highlight and downfall of the run. Also, I forgot to say earlier in the run, but showtimes are banned. I count them as a free ultimate basically, so for the sake of the challenge, I haven't allowed it for the run. Just wanted to mention that in case anyone was confused about me not using it during the run. Here's a quick showcase of the social links I've gotten in this run. I didn't want to use skills such as Yoshida's rank 10 ability and the Velvet Twins rank 10 ability. These go against level cap rule since they allow you to obtain and fuse personas of a higher level than you. I also banned Futaba since her main thing is to give free buffs to the party, which is something else that will kill the video, so I'm not going to use it. Until the next pass appears, I level up Joker a bit. I fuse a Thunderbird who has a Ziodyne with a shock and a luck boost. I refused to Tanta with the trait that makes you use half SP when using support skills. This just helps with SP management when using skills like Charge. I head to Mementos, and it's mostly a breeze. Besides random crits, there aren't any issues here. I also got both a Gore and a Fusion Alarm. Later, I fuse in on Anubis, who gets Kugayon from another alarm. I get my first Endure off of a Jiko Kuten. In a fusion accident, I get a Nue who gets Tetrakarn and Makarakarn, plus a bunch of other skills on them. These last two personas won't be too useful in battle, but they'll be good fusion ingredients for sure. I obtain a Resist Fire scale card and another accident. Finally, my first Amp scale card comes from executing a Thunderbird during an alarm. Now Thunderbird finally packs a punch, which I can't wait to use in more battles. You usually get an elect break, which will allow Thunderbird to do normal elect damage to an enemy, as long as they don't put a wall up. Fuse a White Rider who gets gun boost, and I get a No Fizz skill card from an accident. This is huge and could trivialize bosses if I throw it on the right personas. I made a Leshishis, that's how you say it, who has Growth 2, but becomes a Growth 3 skill thanks to fusing her during an alarm. Growth skills are always good because they allow personas who don't kill enemies on the field to gain XP. Growth 3 gives backup personas 100% of XP after a battle is completed. I plan to throw this on all of my personas. In the fighting parts of Mementos, I get ambushed by an Anubis, but can easily escape thanks to Ifumi's ability. I throw a No Fizz skill on a White Rider, so that I plan to main him for a good while. I also get an elect boost from another accident. I leave Mementos and make treasure traps. These items increase the chances of finding a treasure demon. I always want to use this while I'm infiltrating, just to make farming sessions less tedious. I go to the gun shop and make nearly 600,000 yen off the items I sell. I also go to Kichi Joji and make another 100,000 yen. I plan on using Chihaya's Confidant to make getting fusion alarms easier. Then much time later, we get to the worst arc of the game. I'm just gonna move on. And then we get the best scene in the game. Hey Morgana fans, don't be salty now. He asked for it talking down to Ryuji. Nobody told y'all that? That's what I'm here for. I maxed out my kindness the same day Morgana got punted like a football. I find out that there's a place in Akihabara that you can farm for model guns. If you win a Mothman at the gacha machine, then you can train it for a model gun. This would be useful if I plan on getting better guns for my party. Yo, it has been a minute since I last worked on this video. Right now it is April 25th, and I started this back in like December. So let's just get this video out the way. So as I was saying, here comes the palace I've been hyping up for the whole video. Homura's Palace. This boss fight is pretty infamous, and if you play the game, you know exactly why. It's a random difficulty spike if P5R is your first JRPG. So, how we beat him? I don't know. Let's just try to make it there first. First, we fight Haru's fiance. I try to use Morgana here to inflict damage on everybody in the field, but I end up finding out that the worker bots are beat the wind. I do the fight again, and somehow get a full party heat riser from Futaba, even though I never ranked up her social link. I have no clue how that works, but if anybody knows, definitely feel free to comment about it. Besides that, we just whittled his health down until he was gone. I ended up fighting the red robot and got an unlucky crit, plus I hit that robot's weakness with Makoto. All the subsequent bosses, up to the green robot, would be in the same way, with the charged up triple down. This is the fight that made me stop doing this challenge a while ago. These guys are not able to kill you, but they are definitely made to annoy you. They spam debuffs and only do basic attacks, which only increase my chances of using a critical attack on them. This of course happens, but since I was aware of how RNG dependent this fight was, I switched my strategy up on this go around. Instead of bashing my head against the wall, I used a leg break and shocked it, which let me progress. Next up is Melchizedek, who blessed my party's curses away and killed them. Not the best start, but still better than that last fight I did. I tried bringing the party back, but they ended up getting blessed again. So I decided to solo him. I do pretty well since I just stick the White Rider and blocks all of Melchizedek's attacks, making the fight trivial. This is the last boss before I had to fight. All of that be built up. I was just crazy in the studio, man. Okay. So when I first went against Okuma, I tried using elemental breaks so my party could do damage, plus triple downs as usual. Just pretend you could see it, I didn't get any footage. Even though I failed this attempt, I figured out that you could stun the robots with an ailment gun, so there's your random effect for the day. The next run went mostly the same, but I got to see a huge issue in the fight, and that is Okuma himself. If you do not defeat the robots he sends at you in one turn, he'll start doing follow-up attacks. Put you in a loop of trying to recover, resulting in you doing no damage, and the cycle repeating with the next wave he sends. It's not the biggest deal right now, since we made it to the same wave as last time, even though they end up hitting pretty hard and end up being a threat. A major weakness in my plan is revealed when I go for a triple down and it ends up inflicting a critical hit. This sucks because triple down is very solid, considering it is the one element that all robots are neutral to, so it always guarantees good damage. It happens again, and I decide to rethink my strategy. I go to Mentos and end up fusing Doc, who inherits Megiddo. I know one of the extra rules I made was not using any almighty attacks, but I'm fine with breaking that rule. There's no other way to progress. I also fuse a Ganesha who gets side boost and damp, which will be very helpful when building up a side persona. Since I brought up Ganesha, you probably figured out at this point, I broke some of the rules I had concerning the level cap. There might have been a way to actually do Okuma without breaking this rule, but in my mind, it just would be too luck dependent to make it work. So I just wanted to note that since I did make it a big deal in the beginning of the video. A little while after this, Fornius ends up becoming my main side persona since he has heavy side attacks, which will be good to use for the rest of the game. I also gave him Auto Mataru Kaja since that'll help me finish fights faster. Somehow, I got an accident which gave me a Lilim with Agidine with Fire Boost and Amp. I ended up getting Maragidine from Atavaka since I need party-wide attacks for Okuma's fight. Through another accident I had, I get Thermopylae, which is usually not good since it's only usable when you're ambushed. But through the right trait, it could become my go-to move when needing to apply buffs. The Return of Okuma. This attempt mostly goes the same, but two of my party members get killed when I make it to the fourth wave, so I'm already at a disadvantage before I even start trying to do damage and to get rid of the wave. I wasn't able to defeat them, but when Okuma resends them, I brought back my party members and lost the attempt due to hitting their weaknesses with Morgana, which I completely forgot that they were weak to wind, so that one is for show on me, not on me not planning right. On my next try, I get to the blue robot phase again, and I got close to defeating them, but I just fall short from doing enough damage to do so. This happens one more time, and I just end up quitting this round. So I end up going back to my Mentos, the hopes of getting Fornius more magic, just so his slide attacks have more of a kick. At this point I wanted to be safe and not sorry, so I ended up using Cert. My main goal is to have my party work together. What I mean by this is I have Haru and On use Psy and Fire Break respectively, then I concentrate with Joker to maximize damage and obliterate the robots. Cert would be very helpful if I'm trying to get the personas I plan to use to 70 in their magic stat, just so I could have a chance of winning. Cert also got Gigantomachia, that's how you say that, which is I think it's colossal physical damage to all enemies. So with that and repel physical, he just became my main persona to use. From an alarm, I get Panta Ray, which is the strongest single wind attack, and I fuse Raphael, who ends up having Heat Riser. I conclude my Mementos trip with a level 70 magic stat on Cert, which is what I needed, and now it is time for my revenge. I'm drowning my enemies in the rivers of hell. But for real, these guys are nothing. I really need to just focus on that blue robot phase. I use a spotlight on Joker, since it reflects all damage that the robots do. After Okumura makes most of the party hungry, I duck this wave just so I can recover from the hunger status. Once we're back, Cert does enough damage to wipe them in one turn. Now we're in the final stretch. These robots are another reason I wanted to get Cert, because I cannot use Fornius in this phase since these robots are actually weak to Psy. I bust out Cert again and nearly do enough damage to wipe them, but I fail and need to deal with the replacements. After nearly fumbling by using Makoto, which I didn't do a nuke break, so she just did resisted damage, I am able to recover and kill all enemies I need to with Cert. The last one self-destructing. The last troublesome enemy is the big robot Okumura sends. Thankfully, he is not too much of a problem. Stun him and deal good damage to defeat him. After guarding the Big Bang challenge, he is defeated. In the last-ditch effort, Okumura sends Haru in. She gets obliterated thanks to Blazing Hell. On finally blasts Okumura, and the challenge run is finally over. This setup I have, nothing will be able to defeat me. You don't believe me? I'll go over the highlights from the rest of the run. Okumura gets killed. After a lot of story, we make it to Psy and get a catch on the team. I am throwing Orange Master on Cert just to make him that much more unstoppable. Even treasure demons get killed in one hit now. Mini bosses in the palace also get similar treatment for the rest of the game. Pretty big upgrade I got was throwing Debilitate on Gary Makala, since he repels most of the dangerous elements in the game, making him a great support persona to use. When I fight a Ketchi in Mementos, he goes down in about a minute or two of fighting. I wanted to show this clip of me maxing out Maruki's Confidant, because in this video, we will be doing his palace. The reason I couldn't do that before on previous videos is because PlayStation likes to block any footage that is past the auto board from being recorded. But thanks to the capture card I now have, I can bypass this issue. After this, we take on Psy. The fight only takes about 5 minutes and on dealing almost 3,000 damage with one Agidime. I do nearly 4,000 damage with Cert, and on ends it with another Agidime. I defeated Psy so fast, she didn't even get a chance to go to her second phase. There are a lot more story. Ketchi tries to kill me, so I go to kill him back. I do nearly 2,000 damage to him and push him to his Loki phase. He has more damage, but is still not a threat and dies quickly afterward. Now we go to kill his dad, Shido. We do a ton of damage to him and defeat Shido with an Inferno from Cert. Holy Grail gets demolished, and Yaldabaoth tries to put up a fight and does well on his own, but it just wasn't good enough for my team. This is mainly because of elemental break skills, which nullified the resistances of the parts Yaldabaoth adds to himself. It allows Cert to go all out, and with Ryuji's God's Hand, Yaldabaoth is defeated. Even though it's cool to finally be able to record Maruki's palace, it's still the same mode. Cert destroys everything in his palace. The biggest challenge I had in the palace was Cuckoo Lane hitting crits on my party. Yeah, that's really it. I even decided to not get Third Awakenings for my party, just to see how much more difficult it would be without having my party's transformations. I ended up going to Mementos and fighting Jose. Excuse me, Jose. He wasn't too much to write home about, except for Special Firework, which is a very strong attack and ended up surprising me since it almost wiped my party. That was the only real highlight from Jose though, so yeah, it's more the same. Last but not least, we got Maruki's fight. For his first phase, it may seem impossible since the game makes you think Azathot can only take damage once all of his tendrils are down. This isn't the case, and you only need to take one of them down to deal damage. I do this with Cert and use my other party members' turns to deal damage to him. Marky has attacks that do solid damage to my party, so I still need to make sure to heal throughout the fight. We make it to the second phase and end up hitting a wall. It is nearly impossible to know which tentacle has which weaknesses in this phase, so my initial strategy is useless now. After a couple of attempts, I changed up my game plan. Instead of attacking, I throw in magic and physical ointments on my party, so Marky does damage to himself, and I don't have to risk hitting any weaknesses. During this phase, Marky gets stronger attack, which forced me to recover a lot more while setting this up. After a while, the strategy works and I get to the third phase. I would have won at this point, but my PlayStation got turned off, so I had to redo the fight again. This might sound bad since it sounds like it took a while, but really I just did the same thing as I just described, and I make it to the third phase again. I am mainly being aggressive here, since I do not want to give Marky too much breathing room. He's at his strongest here if we're talking about his attacks, but the opposite is he's at his strongest here if we're talking about his attack, but the opposite could be said for his defense, because his defense is much weaker here. You don't have to deal with the tendrils and all the stuff I was already explaining before. After I defeat him with Cert, the run is officially over. Finally. So, this video did take me a while. My bad. My very bad. It took me way too long to get this out. But that was mainly because I had to focus on school for the past couple of months. I plan to play some classic games next and not do as many challenge runs as I usually do. This is mainly because I feel like I'm at my best when I'm having fun, and I think y'all feel the same. Also, it's because it feels like it takes me, well, not feels like it is, it takes me way longer to do these than if I just open up a game, have some fun, make some jokes, analyze, stuff, just stuff I normally do. You can see throughout my channel. I want to do more of those. Like challenge runs, they take a lot of prep, and especially Persona games, it's just these games are already long, and then I add something that makes it take longer. So I'm trying to avoid playing a lot of long games because I'm an adult now, older, so it's a lot more stuff I gotta do. Also, if you're still here, I appreciate it. I also had a clip where I was talking about where I also had a clip where I was deleting some games that I ended up getting for free, which that was only because my dog Lethal, shout out Lethal, subscribe to Lethal, passed me his account, and he does PS Plus, and if you're on there, they give you free games like every month, whatever. And some of these were like remakes and just other games that I didn't really want to play, but I was like, hey, it's free, so I'm gonna go ahead and play it. But instead of letting that play out, I'll just give my brief thoughts about it, because the clip was like 10 minutes long. This video is already long enough, and I'm pretty sure y'all don't want to be here. So basically, in my view, remakes nowadays are being used to replace original games. Yes, I'm looking at you, Persona 3 Reload. When I bought Reload, because this is like when it dropped, 2024, so that's 2 years ago. I didn't think about remakes like that. But if you search up the original PT or even Fest nowadays, it gets drowned out with reload footage. When I say this, do not misunderstand me, because I'm not saying remakes are bad games, but I think they're bad for gaming in general. I've never seen so many people get hyped to play the same game they did before, but just slightly different, on Reload and Final Fantasy and just all these other remakes. It's really different. And then they use that as a substitute, because what are you gonna put on your screen? More like who's gonna watch something? Is it gonna be the newer game that looks better and on the outside looks better, or is it gonna be the old game which doesn't look as good, but it's truly better because you look at the mechanics, you look at how the game was made, how things are designed, the story, and we can keep going. You look at that and like, hold on, this is actually better. But again, it's kind of like how in court it says the main thing is innocent until proven guilty, but it's really guilty until proven innocent. It's the same thing with games or really anything. It's like looks matter first, unfortunately. and I could be someone that pushes that as well, even without realizing it. Or I'll say some games that just look bad, so it's bad. So again, I'm not immune to it either, but remakes really bank on that ideology. And even games that I have bought before, and I didn't have too much problem with it, I look at it again, like Return to Arkham, for example. I can't even enjoy too much anymore because of clear changes in visual quality, only made to sell a product, and not because the changes were needed. I understand companies need to make money, but if this is how gaming is going to do it, you're going to see me less interested in new games, and I'm going to be more intrigued by older games. That's the true cost of remakes that nobody talks about.